smell of old leather and industrial-grade coffee filled my office. It was the smell of 4 a.m. starts, of contracts signed on the hoods of trucks, of a life built from concrete and steel. I am Arthur Vance, and for 30 years, Vance Logistics was my child. My only other child, Clara, was getting married. The wedding invitation sat on my desk, thick cream cardstock embossed with gold. $100,000 for a single day. A drop in the ocean, I'd told myself. Anything for Clara. She'd had a hard time after her mother passed. If this man, Julian Thorne, made her happy, who was I to object? He was smooth, Julian. He wore suits that cost more than my first truck and spoke about emerging markets and synergistic opportunities. He'd encouraged Clara's dream of opening an art gallery. I thought it was frivolous, but I funded it. A $150,000 wire transfer to secure exclusive European acquisitions. It was, she'd promised, an investment. Tonight was the rehearsal dinner at the club, a final formal gathering before the main event in 2 days. I checked my watch. 7:30 p.m. They were late. When they finally arrived at 8:15, a ripple of quiet annoyance moved through the room. Julian was practically glowing, his arm wrapped possessively around Clara's waist. Clara, however, looked pale, her smile tight. "Sorry we're late, Arthur," Julian said, his voice booming with false sincerity. "We were finalizing some personal arrangements." He guided Clara to our table. As she sat, the light from the chandelier caught her left hand. My breath hitched. The magnificent diamond engagement ring was still there, but nestled beside it was a thick, intricate band of woven gold. It was not a ring I recognized. It was not the ring I had helped her choose for the ceremony. And it was most certainly not a ring one wears before the wedding. My stomach turned to ice. "Clara," I said, my voice low and steady, "may I speak to you and Julian in the study?" The walk across the dining room was the longest of my life. I closed the heavy oak doors of the study, the sound of polite dinner conversation instantly muffled. "What is on your hand, Clara?" I asked, dispensing with pleasantries. Clara looked at her feet. Julian, however, smiled. It was a smile of pure, reptilian triumph. "We just couldn't wait, Arthur," he said, stepping in front of Clara. "The heart wants what it wants." We eloped, flew to Lake Como 2 weeks ago. It was breathtaking. The words didn't compute. 2 weeks ago? But the ceremony, the guests, the money. "Ah, yes," Julian said, straightening his tie. "About that. We knew you'd want us to have the best, and since we were already in Italy, we decided to put that wedding fund to good use. The honeymoon was magnificent. You really should see the Amalfi Coast, Arthur. Your generosity made it possible." I looked at my daughter. She was trembling, tears welling in her eyes, but she said nothing. She didn't defend me. She didn't apologize. She just stood there, a silent partner to her own betrayal. "You lied to me," I said. The statement hung in the air, cold and heavy. "You took $100,000 for a wedding you never planned to have." "Now, Arthur, don't be dramatic," Julian started. "Get out," I whispered. "What?" "Get out of my club, off my property. Get out." My voice rose with each word, a lifetime of controlled temper finally snapping. Clara flinched. Julian's smug mask faltered, replaced by a flash of genuine anger. He grabbed Clara's arm. that's how you want to be, but you'll regret this." I watched them leave, then walked back to my guests, apologized for my daughter's sudden illness, paid the bill, and went home. I did not sleep. At 3 a.m., I was in my home office, not raging, but working. The anger had cooled into a familiar, analytical focus. This wasn't a family drama, it was a hostile takeover. And I knew how to deal with those. I made 2 calls. The first was to my lawyer, the second was to a man named Marcus Reed, a forensic accountant who was known, as he put it, to find the receipts for ghosts. By noon the next day, Marcus was in my office, plugged into my bank's mainframe. The hunt for the art gallery's European acquisitions began. It took him less than 24 hours. "Mr. Vance," he said, pushing his glasses up his nose, "there is no art. The $150,000. It never went to a gallery in Paris or a studio in Milan." He turned his laptop screen toward me. It was a complex flowchart of financial devastation. The money was wired to a shell corporation in Delaware. From there, it was dispersed. $48,000 was used to pay off an American Express Centurion card balance in Mr. Thorne's name. $72,000 was a down payment on a new Aston Martin, registered to Mr. Thorne as a company vehicle for the non-existent gallery. The remaining $30,000, Marcus said, was withdrawn in cash over a 10-day period consistent with Mr. Thorne's honeymoon timeline. He didn't just steal from me. He'd made my daughter his accomplice in robbing me blind. He'd used her dream as a cover to pay off his debts and buy himself a supercar. I paid Marcus his fee and called my lawyer. "Proceed," I said, "irrevocable. And I want to change the beneficiary, all of it." The next move came from them. As I was systematically freezing the joint accounts I shared with Clara and canceling the lease on her gallery space, her response went public. It was an Instagram video. Clara weeping, mascara running down her face. Julian sat beside her, rubbing her back, the picture of a supportive husband. "I don't know what to do," she cried to her 10,000 followers. "My father, he's trying to destroy my life. Just because he doesn't like my husband, he's cutting me off. He's trying to bankrupt my business. He's even threatening to annul our marriage. He's a monster. Please, I never thought my own father could be so cruel." The comments were a flood of sympathetic vitriol. Controlling, narcissist, financial abuse. "Stay strong, Clara. They weren't just thieves. They were arsonists, burning my reputation to the ground to cover their tracks." I didn't respond. I didn't issue a statement. I just went back to work. For 2 weeks, I met with my legal and financial teams. We restructured everything. Vance Logistics was placed into a new corporate entity. My personal portfolio, my homes, my holdings, everything was liquidated and consolidated. My entire life's work, valued at just over $98 million, was transferred into a single, unchangeable, irrevocable trust. The beneficiary was not my daughter. It was the Vance Foundation for Ethical Entrepreneurship, a new legacy, a fund dedicated to providing startup capital and mentorship to young, working-class men and women who had a real business plan, not just an expensive hobby. People who knew the value of $1 because they'd never been given one. The final piece of their plan came via a gold-embossed invitation, the grand opening of Thorn Gallery. They were desperate. With the gallery lease voided and my money gone, Julian was making one last public play. He'd used the last of his cash to rent a raw event space for one night, invited the city's elite, the art critics, and the local press. He was going to try and shame me. He was going to corner me in public and force my hand. IRSVPD. Yes. The event space was stark white and mostly empty. A few rented sculptures were scattered around. Waiters served champagne in an attempt to disguise the fact that there was no art. Julian, in his element, stood at a small lectern, Clara plastered to his side. He spotted me as I walked in. His eyes lit up. The trap was set. After 20 minutes of schmoozing, Julian tapped the microphone. "Friends, collectors, thank you for coming. Tonight is the culmination of a dream to bring world-class art to this great city." He beamed at Clara. "But this dream," he continued, his voice dropping into a solemn register, "has been a struggle. We have faced obstacles, enormous ones, especially when those closest to you don't share your vision." He looked directly at me. The room followed his gaze. "But I believe in family. I believe in forgiveness, and I believe in supporting the next generation, which is why I'd like to invite my father-in-law, Arthur Vance, to the front to say a few words and show his support for his daughter's incredible achievement." A polite, hesitant applause. All eyes were on me. This was the moment. He thought he had me. Refuse, and I was the monster from Instagram. Agree, and I was validating his lie, trapped into funding his fantasy. I straightened my own simple tie and walked to the front. I shook his hand, the grip firm, my eyes cold. He handed me the microphone. "Thank you, Julian," I said, my voice carrying easily through the silent room. "Julian is right about supporting the next generation. He's right that it's vital to support young people with dreams. He just isn't one of them." A nervous titter went through the crowd. Julian's smile froze. "2 months ago, I gave my daughter $150,000 to acquire art for this gallery. A noble goal. Instead, that money was used to pay off Julian's personal credit card debt and to purchase that very handsome Aston Martin parked out front." The murmuring started. Clara went white. "I also gave them $100,000 for a wedding, a celebration for family and friends. They canceled it, secretly. They flew to Italy, got married, and used your wedding gifts and my money to fund a 6-week luxury honeymoon, all while lying to my face." I looked at my daughter. "This isn't a gallery. It's an empty room. It's a stage for a con, and the performance is over." I turned back to the crowd, but Julian's words did inspire me. I am, as of this week, dedicating my entire estate to supporting young entrepreneurs. It's called the Vance Foundation. It will fund real businesses. It will reward hard work, not deception. It will build legacies, not illusions. I wish my daughter and her husband well. They have made their choice, and now I have made mine. I placed the microphone on the lectern and walked out of the building. I didn't look back at the flashbulbs from the stunned reporters or at the face of my daughter as she watched her entire world and her father walk away. I heard from them one more time. A week later, a call to my private line. It was Clara sobbing. Dad, please. He's gone. Julian, he's gone. He took the car. He drained the last account. I have nothing. Dad, I'm being evicted. Please, I'll do anything. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I listened. I heard the desperation, the fear, the genuine panic. I thought of the warehouse I started in, the cold mornings, the sleepless nights. I thought of the lies, the Instagram video, and the hollow, empty gallery. You are a grown woman, Clara, I said, my voice devoid of anger, devoid of anything at all. You are married. You made your choices. Now you must live with them. I hung up the phone. I blocked her number. This morning I sat in my office, the smell of coffee filling the air. On my desk was not an invitation, but the first stack of grant applications for the foundation. A young woman from the inner city with a plan for a community-based logistics service. A young mechanic who wanted to build a business servicing electric trucks. Real dreams. I picked up my pen and I got to work.